Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fourth episode of Divertimento, my video series. And today we have the great bass player, Will Slater.
Oh.
Say hi.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? Thank you, Gene, for having me.
Hey, man.
It's an honor to be
Thanks
here
for coming over here. We live so close to each other, just around the corner.
Yeah,
amazing.
A quarter mile.
Yeah, just 5 minute, 8 minute walk. But Will and I go somewhat way back, maybe about 10 years. We haven't played a lot together, but we've played kind of consistently over the years.
You were definitely one of the first gigs that I played. I haven't been in New York for quite 10 years, but it was my first year. I think we played together.
Right.
It's almost been 9 years, so it's been about 10 years.
Yeah, time really flew by. And man, what you been up to?
Well, no, man, things are work's starting to come back pretty well recently. You know, after this last year was just, as everybody was, was trapped inside.
Right.
So it's been nice to have the phone ringing again and be out there playing. It's just been inspiring to see musicians back working and kind of getting back to what we're meant to be doing. After it's kind of like a release of just positive energy. I feel like after this kind of negative period that we've all been in.
Things are opening up again, right? Slowly.
Yeah.
I saw that like 55 bars got some stuff going on.
Yeah.
Is Blue Note back up, or are they still doing like online gigs? Like
I'm not sure like what the capacity is like for some of these places, but yeah, like I played at the 55 bar a few times, and they're allowing people in. I played at Smalls, and they're allowing people in. So I think it's just.
Do you have to show a vaccine card to get in now?
I think they're not always checking, but they have.
Yeah, because like the new mandate by the mayor here says that you got
to. I think some places,
gyms, entertainment.
Yeah, they don't seem to be too.
They
haven't actually. No one's asked me to see my card. Maybe
I know,
once or
it's kind of
twice.
Silly, right?
But I've been told to bring it to every
gig. It's a piece of paper.
Right. Yeah.
Anybody can forge it.
Right. Yeah, but it's better to be safe than sorry, though, because it's
absolutely. Man, like the times that I've been out, I mean, I just got back. Well, I mean, just a couple months ago, I came back from Japan. I was finally able to come back because I was. I mean, I don't want to say trapped, but I mean, my flights kept getting canceled because of the pandemic.
You were in Japan?
Yeah, for 11 months.
Oh, wow.
I was only supposed to be there for 3 months for the gigs and tours and come back, but the flights and all these like entry bans and stuff kind of kept me there. And so if anywhere, Tokyo is a great place to be trapped in because I kept getting a lot of work while I was there too. So I ended up, but a couple months ago I came back, got vaccinated, and then I've been out and about. And isn't there like a lot less people on the streets in New York City?
Definitely.
Where are they? I mean, I took the L train on a Saturday afternoon. Usually it's packed. And there was like literally nobody on the train.
Right.
And and in Japan, the news was like, oh, the crimes are really high up in New York again. There's tremendous amount of train violence. So I thought, and also the Delta strain. Maybe I thought, oh man, maybe people are scared to hang around. But I haven't seen. I mean, even Manhattan walking around. Where are they?
Yeah, I don't know if it was just the tourists I think it's more the tourists, the resident people. I feel like I've seen the residential neighborhoods seem to be somewhat kind of lively and back together, but when I've been in Manhattan and especially where all the jazz clubs in that area, it seems after midnight or something, it just has this lull or this kind of
well, because tourists are still not allowed in.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
right.
So.
Like my friend from Europe, she was able to come back in because she had a green card. But if you're just coming in as a tourist, there's still an entry ban in the U.S. over COVID, which Europe is not too happy about because the reverse is not true. Europeans are letting Americans in now, so they want to kind of make it. But yeah, I think a lot of business probably got, like anywhere, man, really crushed. But so when the pandemic hit, which was last year, it's over a year and a half now, maybe. Man, I remember everything shut down. My recordings got canceled, studios went down, clubs, so. Man, Were you here? Did you stay through the pandemic in New York?
I was here for the most part. I went to, I actually left for like a couple months right at the beginning and stayed on Cape Cod where I'm from for about a month and a half because everything at that point was canceled. And I took the time to get out of the city for like a month and stayed with some family there.
Oh, good.
Which was kind of relaxing, and I could just really just focus on music at that point.
Wow.
And do some writing and a lot of shedding, which was actually, you know, it was, the whole thing was, the first week I kind of just panicked. It was like everything was canceled.
Right, because like, you make a living just by being
I was just playing
jazz musician.
Yeah, I was like, okay,
that's an incredible thing to do anyway.
There's no more. Every gig this week just got canceled. The bigger gigs I had lined up there, just kind of in succession, everything got wiped out, and then it kind of started to be like, okay, now this is going into gigs in the summertime getting wiped out after the first week or so. So it just got to be very like, whoa, what's going to happen to not just me, but to anybody who's making a living as an artist.
There was no way to read it, because when it happened, I said, oh, okay, well, so it'll be done in 3 months, you know? And so I had a tour booked in June last year. And I was like, I will be over in 3 months. No way. So that got canceled. Everything had to be rescheduled for October. And thank God I was able to do that, because this was all in Japan. And
I just felt like it was like kind of a mental, like it was kind of like a game with it, like a psychological warfare. Like, what do you do as a musician?
Right.
How do you use this time now? You can't really hang with friends as much, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go around other people. You can't have sessions. Everything's locked down. So you kind of had to just make the best of an ugly situation, which is, I think, you know, what I tried to do, and just tried to, you know, basically not stress out too much, because that wasn't going to help the situation.
Yeah, it's not going to help.
So my actually one of the nice things that would happen was, I really kind of, because it was so quiet, I really kind of tried to dig back into some of the things that I originally loved about music and jazz and
oh, great.
And this art form, because it allowed the space to kind of jump back in and not have any interruptions, which was a totally new thing that I hadn't experienced. At least since college, or even before that, there wasn't any sessions, there wasn't a rehearsal, there wasn't a gig to go to. So that space kind of created this different kind of reality that I had never experienced. So at first it was, like I said, I was kind of filled with anxiety, but I was like, how can I try to take advantage of some of this uninterrupted silence and try to make the best of it? So I tried to kind of.
Well, I think New York musicians who've been here, you know, as long as you have, or, you know, the resilience is very impressive. Resilience, I mean, I've been in New York for like, 30 years now, but 1990, fast. But resilience, whether, you know, somehow keep doing what you really love, in spite of all the challenges that kind of jump into your, pathway. I mean, the pandemic was, that was for everybody. But, you know, of course, I mean, it's very difficult to earn a living, make ends meet, just playing music, recording, tour. I know a lot of my younger friends here who had to move out of New York, you know. I mean, the ones that kind of survive find a way of doing it, which is very impressive. What I found out is, like, during the pandemic, many jazz musicians that I know, they all took on some sort of a project, like a creative project. And not all of us music. They made videos of, like my friend, you know, Sebastian, the pianist, he was saying, like, there was a kind of a trend where everybody made videos about them making bread, homemade bread at home, you know, it's cool. And challenging different things, doing things musically that you might not have done.
Well, there was definitely enough time to learn how to step up your cooking game.
Yeah, because you couldn't go out and eat, you know.
There was no more excuses anymore not to step it up a little bit. I actually at the peak of that experimentation was I made fried rice with like peas and carrots and
Yeah,
onions,
yeah.
and I was sending pictures to my family and look at what I did, you know, my friends.
Now, you say you're from Cape Cod?
Originally, yeah, that's
Wow.
where I grew up. Yep.
It's like Martha's Vineyard is.
That's one of the islands. I grew up in the town of Barnstable, which is
Oh.
actually a pretty big residential area with.
Right.
It's like a small.
Right.
Hyannis is a small city, and then I kind of grew up in the suburbs of Cape Cod.
So you know Woods Hole?
Oh yeah, that's further out. Kind of if you look at the Cape, that's almost at the tip of the Cape, but that's a beautiful, more rural area.
Yeah,
But
when I was
great.
younger, we took vacations out there every summer, especially when my son was a little baby, and Falmouth is near there.
Yeah.
So we haven't been back there in a while, but we really enjoyed that.
Yeah, Woods Hole is the other direction. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's right near Falmouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cape Cod's actually it's rather big. You know, it's like it's a pretty big piece of land. But it's a beautiful place. You know, obviously there's oceans and there's a lot of woods. And coming from New York, living in New York where it's so exciting and diverse and beautiful, and I mean, and just the energy is on another level in this city than anywhere in the world. Going back to there where it's more serene is a nice contrast.
Yeah, it was a good time. To, I mean, once a year it's just good to get away from
I know
the
a lot
hustle and
of
bustle
New York
here.
musicians that go there.
Yeah, amazing thing about the Woods Hole, there's like a little, what do you call, like a area where the boats dock, a little harbor. They filmed Jaws there.
Oh yeah.
You know the movie Jaws?
Yeah.
Are you old enough to remember Jaws?
Of course.
Jaws was one of the first movies I saw when I was a elementary school kid, man, and that freaked me out. But they filmed Jaws there. Kind of like a lot of intelligent people in Woods Hole because there's like a huge world famous actually. Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and my wife being a scientist, she knew some people out there, and it was really.
What city are you from in Japan?
Hmm?
What are you from Japan originally?
Sort of. It's hard. I mean, I grew up in Japan, but on a U.S. Air Force base.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So I'm American, but my mother is actually a native Japanese woman, and she's from Tokyo. So
okay.
So I have relatives in Tokyo and stuff, which is a good thing because it allows me to do all the gigs in Japan and stuff because I could get a resident visa. That's the hardest thing for foreigners to go there and work, because that's, unlike Europe where I heard you could just go there and do big concerts too without any issues, you know. Whereas in Japan, if you want to play and do gigs, musicians, if you're not Japanese citizen, you would have to get a
visa, right? That's really hard to get, right?
It's really hard to do it privately, but I think there are like big companies that do it for you, like Blue Note or Cotton Club. But the downside is that's like one, you got to be like Chick Corea or pretty well known, and because they're paying for the visa, you only could play there. Right? I mean, they're not gonna let you play. A Blue Note, after paying I don't know how much it is, like maybe $1,000 or $1,800 each musician, and so they pay that money and fly you over. Then they're not gonna say, okay, you could play Cotton, our rival venue without, you know what I mean? So I know some of Tana, and they do that, and they just play that and go right out. Right. Whereas when I go, this time around I had Gene Jackson on drums, David Bryant.
Yeah.
He lives in Japan.
I went to school with David, yeah.
So he lives in Tokyo now, and Japanese bass player. We did a 1-month tour almost every day, all the way north from Sapporo down to the island of Okinawa. We kind of made a circle.
Wow.
30 days. It's great. But in order to do that, somebody will have to get a visa for the foreign, But because Gene is married to a Japanese wife, and so is David, they're cool.
Nice. I did 2 tours there. I don't know how it worked out, but we played at the Cotton Club on one of them with this.
In Tokyo, right?
Yeah,
There were a few, but great.
Yeah, and actually this trio, this great pianist Yoko Biwa, she's from Kobe. In Japan, and we actually recorded. One of the highlights actually of the pandemic was recording an album with her after we hadn't played together for 6 months. Or I hadn't played with anybody really for 6 months. So it was a pleasure in a bunch of ways. But I went to Japan with her twice actually.
During the pandemic?
No. This was years ago.
Oh, I see.
But it was it was just a people really seem to love jazz there. Or, you know, and,
They do.
It was just a pleasure
It's a different
to travel around and play there.
Jazz is everywhere. I mean, you could go to like a Japanese noodle shop and they're playing Coltrane on the system.
I heard Coltrane and Miles
like,
everywhere.
Woo!
Right. Yeah.
And so people are familiar with it. However, it's everybody has different opinions, but my feeling is that even during the pandemic, my Japanese store was mostly full. People got tired of staying home, and the venue said we're going to do it. We're going to definitely do it because June we had to reschedule, and people came out. But it's still kind of hard to bring a crowd in, especially compared to other forms of commercial music. Because there are many people in Japan that want to be jazz musicians, but not so much. There's probably less listeners who just want to pay the money. And going to a jazz gig in Japan is expensive. It's not like a $10. They love when I say, oh, you could go to 55 Bar and catch Mike Stern for like, what's the cover, $10 or $15 or something crazy like that. I mean, even my concert in Japan, they'd be charging like $60 just for the ticket.
Wow.
So it's a different thing. But I mean, people earn at a different rate too, right? So most people have that kind of bread.
Okay. Yeah, I wish I could. It was one of those places where I wish I could have stayed longer because I think I just scratched the surface. I was there for 2 weeks each time, but it's just enough to get a taste. And I really enjoyed.
We will. I'm planning. I'm planning to take you.
I'd love to go. Yeah.
It was do great. Like a month tour.
The food, and then just the culture. It's such a culture shock for me. I lived in Boston for a while. I lived in New York for a while. I can remember getting back. I remember getting back to. I think I flew into Logan Airport. And I went to the Starbucks, and I was used to the polite attitude in Japan. And then I asked them one day, I was like, "Hey, do you know what kind of sandwiches this is?" They're like, "Why don't you read the label?" Or something. Just something. I was just like, "Okay, I'm back. I'm back in the States. All right. This is."
As soon as I,
you can feel it right when you get back, which is cool. Both have their.
As soon as I landed in JFK, I gotta turn on the switch, man. Just at the customs and
totally.
And the immigration.
I thought it was great. I mean, I couldn't have. I'd heard that I could, but you can't really know until you go there what the whole vast difference is, which is a lot of fun.
The customer service in Japan is at another level.
Oh my God! Yeah,
they're very, very cordial, respectful, and really. What I found is like as big of a city as Tokyo is, everything sort of kind of runs well. Trains never break down. Everything's on time. Everything's clean. So I really enjoyed my time there. So I said, wow, I'm kind of stuck here. My flight keeps getting canceled, but the gigs, people are calling me, and I've been doing master classes and all sorts of things while I was there. And the food was great, and it's very cheap compared to the food here in New York.
Right. Yeah, and you can get in a convenience store. You can find
whatever.
Really good stuff.
You could live. You could just survive on what's there.
Yeah, I remember going. It was like, this is the 7-Eleven of Japan. This is like 4-star restaurant.
You going to 7-Eleven in Brooklyn right here, man. It's kind of scary.
Right. Yeah.
The food that they have by the counter. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's a different world. And what I've liked about my time there was that none of the venues ever cheated me. I was like, here in New York, and I'm not going to name venues, but they say, well, this will, they chump me like, very little money, but still it's not what they said it was and things like that. Mm-hmm. In Japan, what happened was like, it was a quartet of Gene Jackson and David Bryan, myself, and this Japanese bass player Daiki, but some places because of the COVID, not many people showed up. And if that was the case, the owner took it upon himself to open up his wallet and paid us the money, so he would lose. Wow. I've never had that happen here. Yeah, like door gigs and stuff in New York. If nobody comes, they don't pay you. Like that Williamsburg place that we played last time.
Right.
So they put it all on the artist.
I think that's an American thing. There's not a lot of support for the arts. And I'm still impressed with New York that there's so much love for the music here that it's still people still keep it going. The
I
people that
know.
love the music. I think that's great. It's just that, yeah, it's a cultural thing too. It's a dog eat dog world or something within musicians kind of we're just in that world, which is unfortunate for everybody that is a musician.
Yeah, so in that sense, I found, granted, the musicianship here in New York is off the charts. I mean, compared to anywhere in the world that I've been to, New York has the single most focused group of players, famous, non-famous, nobody even knows who they are, but they're all fucking great musicians here. And Tokyo has their share of, good
It's kind of
players,
something
but
to be
it's
said for that. Just that it's like it's part of the, kind of the sacrifice. There's
right,
something to that.
And there's far less work here, and so in that sense, I find the scene in New York to be a little more dysfunctional compared to Japan. It seems like the players and the musicians in Japan, because there's so much work that everybody who's somewhat decent can play every day pretty much. Mm-hmm. So it's not this dog eat dog kind of madness. Right. So everybody's cool. Everybody respects you if you're great, but that there's none of this kind of weird vibe thing there. So that's what I really appreciated. And Gene Jackson's been living there forever, and he really, really loves it there. And which is a shame because, well, they all get married to really nice Japanese ladies too. So that's another thing. And so many jazz musicians I know, even like the big ones like Keith Jarrett, they all marry Japanese girls. And are you married?
No, I'm not married yet.
So we go to Japan. I hook you up. Or you'd be so damn popular there that it would be funny. I would have to kind of keep you stop.
New York is definitely it's definitely the hardest place to be in some sense, just because of this sheer. It's a blessing and a curse, because it's like it pushes you to try to get to the next level, because you have to be kind of almost obsessive in a good way. To try to oh wow, okay, that's how this person is getting this gig, or that's I want to learn how to do that, and I can see it, and I can maybe observe and try to do it, but the negative part is there's so many great musicians and not enough places to play. Well, so it's oversaturated.
How many places are there now? Like, I mean, maybe 6 big ones and maybe 15 smaller ones.
Right.
In Tokyo alone, I was told by a journalist there that there's like, just Tokyo's the city alone, 276 live jazz clubs.
Wow, yeah, I noticed. Yeah, when I was there,
I mean, granted, some are bigger, some are smaller.
I love the smaller clubs. It was this intimate kind of quality about it that was like, it made you feel like whoever the owner is, they had all their records on the wall, and they it was like their passion project, and it was. And
all the owners are truly jazz fans, and they love it. I mean, one of my favorite places that I found played in Tokyo is a place called No Room for Squares, and it's a saxophone owner. I think he went to Berkeley too, but he decided not to pursue the performance profession and opened up a really nice, it's sort of like a Japanese 55 bar, and great music there. Unfortunately with the COVID, they can't do gigs every day now, but it was really such a beautiful, I mean, there's no dumps. Like here in New York, you go to these small clubs, you went to 55, you're like, they should fix this, the roads is not working, the whatever. But in Japan, all the places are pristine, and all the gear works. Piano is tuned, so that I really appreciated. But it's a different thing. I could see why, like Gene Jackson, well, he's older now. Oh shit, me too. Maybe I'm older, right?
Well, you're talking it up. I definitely want to go back and
let's try to it's 2022. I'm planning on it, but at this point I can't read COVID. I mean, like U.S. seems to have come down, right? More people are getting vaccinated, but Japan now is in the middle of 5th wave, and the numbers daily are the largest than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So I mean, I hear rumors that like Japan is now literally considering lockdown because they never went in, Japan never went into lockdown. They went into kind of like
Japan was doing great. Well,
yeah,
America was struggling.
Yeah,
right?
New York was blowing up, and now it's I don't want to say now it's the opposite because the numbers, the U.S. numbers are still higher.
What's the rate of vaccination in Japan?
Yeah, I think like maybe 65% of senior citizens and about half of the rest of the population is fully vaccinated.
It's kind of similar to America, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. But they started slower. U.S. was pretty quick with the vaccine. The younger people are now just starting in September. But
it's places like Tokyo are very congested in certain.
So the numbers are really high. But the New York number is actually higher. But because the New York was so high that they say it's a downward trend. Whereas Japan, the numbers are still lower than the United States, but because it used to be so low and it's gone up 50-fold, now they're very serious about doing a mandatory or like enforced lockdown, which means that's gonna, unless there's some sort of like financial assistance from the government for freelance and artists and things like that, it will be very difficult to survive through it,
Yeah. It's the main thing is just keeping the infection rate down all over the world because it seems to be it seems to be when one country seems to do what, it doesn't seem like everybody has to do their part and it seems like hopefully it's over that hump and it's winding down. Maybe it's going to take a while, but just hope for the best in that regard that the variants don't keep it under control.
Well, apparently this virus is smart, man. Keeps like varying himself to be the parasite to be, oh shit, this vaccine's coming, let me try to kind of flip, improvise and be something else.
Right. And then it's like social creatures, it's hard to just stay in this kind of isolated area forever, and not see family and not hang. So it's just really tricky.
But death rate in Japan is awfully low. That's the thing. It's like you can't compare. U.S. it's over 600,000. I heard. In Japan right now it's at 15,000, and U.S. has 2.5 times the population of Japan. So in that sense, population. U.S. is a huge mass of land, but the population is only 2.5 times more than Japan. And Japan is about the size of California.
Wow. So America seemed to be just kind of the rug swept out from under them.
Yeah, well, totally... Trump said it was just a cold.
Right, yeah.
Back then, 4 years ago. But anyway, so do you play electric bass at all, or you're all upright?
No, I play electric bass. I bet 95% of the gigs I do are on upright.
Yeah, because you're like the main upright bass player in the city.
I love the electric. I've been focused more on the records I really fell in love with were like some records that Miles Davis's Workin', Cookin', Steamin', Relaxin'.
Oh, those are great.
Paul Chambers.
Yeah.
And that
who wouldn't like that?
Kind of stole my heart, and I just I couldn't play like that obviously, but I just wanted to. I remember I was listening to in my basement. I had some of my dad's records.
Yeah.
He's a musician. He's a piano player, great piano player.
Yeah.
And I was just getting into jazz, and you see the Miles Davis, the 10 CD or whatever. And I just let me check this one. I can't remember the track was Surrey with the Fringe on top. Yeah. And I remember I was listening to it.
I have all that, man.
I can kind of hear this. And then the Red Garland started taking a solo. I remember just hearing how funky, and it just kind of clicked, and I was like, and then from the next solo was, I think it was either Miles or I forget the order, but it was Train, and then Paul Chambers took a solo, and then they traded with Philly Joe, and it was just like everything was in sync. The whole it was like a masterpiece, but this little 5-minute masterpiece, and then all the tunes in the album were like that, and I was like, is there more of this? And there was 10 more CDs. And I was like, okay, let me check these out.
They did this back in the 50s, man.
Yeah, and my mind was literally
it's still blown. I can't. They did all that. There is just live, probably live to multi-track or live to whatever it was, and no really fixing solos or anything like that, right? Because modern jazz records, I've transcribed a lot over my life, and you could tell, like, the modern records, you try to transcribe, the solo's so great, and then as you transcribe them, there's all sorts of crossfades.
The language is so perfect. They're all, part of what I love about it is they're all unique, but they're all so on the same page, or however you want to call it. They're just so, the language is just like, they're talking to each other, and they're kind of almost taking what the last person did and with almost the same exact energy saying something fresh. You know, it's amazing.
Right. And man, do you think that kind of tradition will be around, or will be? I think little by little, you know, when jazz has become very modernized. Even my Fractal Attraction group, it's, you know, more intellectual than it used to be, and everything's gotten original and kind of.
I still hear that. I still hear that kind of playing. Yeah, I mean,
the standards here. I mean, it might come back. I mean, things swing and swing back. You know what I mean? Like there was Steve Coleman, but then there, you know, before that there was Winton, who was very pure.
I just heard like Peter Bernstein and Brad Meldau and Joe Farnsworth. I think Peter Washington playing at Mesro. They were kind of doing that, you know, standards and just swinging, and it was great. You know, so I think there's always that like, because it's such a quintessential part of jazz. I think it'll always be around.
That's good.
And then it's great to have, you know, at that same period. I mean, I was listening to Weather Report. Too. Great. So they're not even. They're not even really.
Well, what people call jazz. There's so much. The jazz umbrella is so huge. That, I mean, they call Kenny G jazz.
That's kind of what opened my ears to acoustic, pure. I guess pure jazz. And then I went back. You can go back as far as you want, kind of. But that was kind of in the middle there. But it just, you know, knocked me out. But I was listening to Weather Report. And, you know, different bands like that. And then I got into Wayne's albums. So
when I first came to New York, I was told that electric guitar is not a jazz instrument. So
right.
This is the 90s, and it was different. It was like they didn't want a microphone, the acoustic bass. It was like bass, drums, piano, saxophone, all acoustic, and that was it. You know. God forbid you bought an electric guitar.
I mean, there's just, and then like, there's so much, you know. You can get into Ornette, and it can go any direction you want.
That's the beauty of jazz, you know.
You don't have to choose. You can the more you get into it, the more you can absorb, and hopefully it all comes out. And however you want it to, or if you however you don't want it to. No one knows. You know, you never know. But it's the inspiration. I think that is the beautiful part about it.
So, do you have a CD out?
I don't yet have.
As a leader?
I don't. I've recorded a bunch, but I have ideas. I have a lot of originals that I've written, but I also have this. It's kind of just what we're talking about. This like this yearning to record just like a melodic, straight ahead album. So I'm kind of in between these two things, and I'm kind of working on both. And if the stars align and I find a group of guys or you know, people or whatever that want to record it, then.
But being a bass player, you're more focused on like being called sideman kind of thing.
I love just playing. I love playing.
Well, a lot of bass players do.
Yeah, so you know, I kind of just.
You guys are a different animal. See, I'm a guitarist, so I'm kind of stubborn, so I want my music to be played. So most guitar players end up becoming, you know, like leaders. The one that's in the jazz, like McLaughlin, Schofield, they have to do that because otherwise nobody will play my music. I want to play my, you know, originals. And if anybody wants to come hear you play, do you have schedule? You have a website? Anything that they can check out?
Yeah, I post up on Instagram at Will Slater Bass, or on my Facebook. There's gigs on there that I post. So yeah, I have some stuff.
So if somebody just wanted to look you up, if they type Will Slater Bass in Google, all the information will probably show up.
That's more on my social media. I don't link it to my website as much anymore because I just don't take the time to do it because the gigs are posted on social media or I post them. So I should probably make a but no, it's basically just posting it, saying, okay, I got a call for this gig. Let me put it up a couple days before.
Facebook. I mean, everybody's on. All the musicians use Facebook. I mean, that's
kind of like my webpage in a way.
It is.
That's what I made it easier because there's more people there.
Easier to maintain. It's just that it's there. So yes. Anybody want to check his great bass playing out or his music? Just check this stuff
Thank
out.
you, Gene Ess. It's a great guitar player, man. I really appreciate you having me talking.
Yeah, and hopefully with the pandemic easing up, I'll be able to bring at least this my goal, because Gene Jackson's already there. Have you worked with him?
I've played a couple rehearsals with him.
He's a great drummer.
Oh yeah,
and if I want to bring a real bass player there next time, and
that'd be awesome.
tour around.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
All right, so ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you, Will Slater, bass player extraordinaire. What is that? How do you say extraordinaire? New York City.
Thanks,
Brooklyn. We live right around.
We got it. Yeah.
My neighbor.
Bye.
All right.